Hello and good afternoon, Xbox Nation. Welcome to this week's new episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast. I am your host, Mr. Boomstick XL, and as you can tell by the thumbnail, as you can tell by what was written above the thumbnail, we have some massive topics to talk about. And to be honest, I got a lot of praise from the gentlemen on this panel for the hotness, if you will, of the topics. But understand that they came literally at the 12th hour because there has been no good news. So sometimes you got to kind of make stuff up to make this, to have stuff to talk about. Not really make it up, but you have to generate these topics. And a lot of them are self-generated, but they have some big weight behind them. But let's start with the introductions, and we're going to break down this show immediately. And we're going to start first with someone that has become a regular on this show, special guest N64. Josh, how the hell are you, brother? How you feeling?
I am so good. I'm so good. E3 is just around the corner. What are we going to learn from Xbox? I can't wait.
Yeah, it's going to be, we have some big questions, folks. Hopefully it doesn't trigger people in the chat, but we definitely have some really big topics to crush, and hopefully everyone will enjoy the answers. I have a few very specific things I want to say about it, but let's go next to our representative from PlayStation Nation, still costing me a quarter every time he's here, Mr. Bad Bit. How the heck are you, dude?
Jim Ryan says I'm not allowed to talk anymore.
Yeah, Jim, I have to write him an email. I'm gonna have to email Jim after the show. Tell him to get off your back.
Yeah. There he is.
Jim.
I wanted to make sure that was still my thing. I'm happy to be here, man. I'm happy to talk Xbox and all that. So let's get into it today, man.
Yeah, thanks, brother. Thanks, definitely appreciate that. And next up, you know him as E3 hyped for E3 Boxer Bear Archimedes. You've been putting out some incredible content. The last couple of videos have been awesome. How are you, dude?
Thank you. I'm doing fantastic. I mean, it's exciting to be a gamer right now. E3 is around the corner. There's so much going on. We get all these little to bigger informations up front, like game presentations, like infos, and yeah, it's just a fantastic time to be a gamer. It's even more fantastic to be a content creator and being able to talk about all that stuff. Like you said, I put out 2 videos already this week because there's just so much to talk. And yeah, I'm looking forward to a great show.
Well, thank you so much for being here. And last and in no way least, you know him as someone that has the most unique perspective when breaking down these things, that he makes you scratch your brain because you cannot keep up with his linguistum, I guess you can call it. But VJ, welcome to the party, bro. And I cannot wait to hear what you have to say on some of these bigger topics.
I'm actually worried about what I might say. I have no idea at the moment, but I really appreciate being back on the show, Boom. It's a pleasure each and every week. And as you typically say, Boom, let's go.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that. And what we're going to be seeing for the first half of the show is, of course, Hive Busters. I mean, look, folks, this game just looks absolutely stunning running on the Series X. I honestly cannot wait. I really am looking forward to seeing what the coalition has to do with Gear 6, but more importantly, I'm going to be very interested to see if they continue supporting Gears 5 with DLC like this. I hope that they do. Maybe we'll get a special announcement. Maybe they'll even continue this story on a smaller release. I don't know, but whatever they're going to be working on, whether it's Gear 6 or the smaller project, we do know they're going to be using Unreal Engine 5, and I cannot wait to see what they bring to the table. But I want to open up the show with some Halo news. Now, obviously, Halo is one of the biggest parts, I think, of this particular E3 for so many reasons that I would need my fingers and toes to count. But one of the things that we just learned is exactly how we will see, and more importantly, hear Halo Infinite, when it releases later this year on both PC and Xbox. And we have confirmation that Halo Infinite will in fact support Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos at launch. Now, obviously, you might remember earlier that Microsoft had partnered with Dolby last year, introducing support for both Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos to the Xbox consoles in addition to Windows PC. Now, it seems like their flagship game, which of course is Halo, that's releasing this holiday season, 343's Halo Infinite will support both technologies on PC and Xbox. And this is what the official game page on Dolby's website had to say. It says this: see more with Dolby Vision. When you play in Dolby Vision, you unlock the most realistic and lifelike visuals the game has to offer. With brightness, contrast, color, and depth that goes beyond even traditional HDR games, experience the world in the way it was meant to be seen. Prepare for the brightest and darkest moments, up to 40 times brighter highlights and 10 times deeper blacks bring fiery explosions and the deep void of outer space to life. Unleash your imagination with ultra vivid colors. Deep, rich colors pop off the screen, transporting you to lush, magical forests and desolate war zones. And finally, reveal what you've been missing. More contrast and more color reveal greater detail and texture. Peer into the shadows, scan the horizon, and pick out the camouflaged enemies before it's too late. And finally, say goodbye to adjustment sliders. Dolby Vision games automatically map your Dolby Vision display as you play, so you're always seeing the full picture. Now, listen, again, not the biggest story of today, but something that is worth talking about, because there are many people in this community, including myself, who went out and purchased new TVs to take advantage of next generation. So I want to go to Joe first on this. You know, believe it or not, folks, representative of PlayStation Nation or not, he is one of the biggest Halo fans on the panel. Joe, when you hear that it's going to support not only Dolby Atmos, which is fantastic, but it's going to support Dolby Vision, how incredible should Halo Infinite look running on an X if you have the TV that supports both of these technologies?
Man, I'm pretty excited for Halo. I mentioned it on right before the show started. My hype level for E3 is like to the floor. I don't think it's going to be that big. And so that's good for me, because anything's going to really stun me. The only thing I'm expecting to see, that I'm excited to see, is Halo and how it looks, and maybe even how it's changed since the last time we've seen it visually.
Yes.
I really want to see I want to see what this open world really looks like. Like, how open is this world? Is it like Madagascar in Uncharted 4, or is it like like Watch Dogs or like Ubisoft, open world in theory? Like, what is that game going to really look like? Like, am I going to be able to start from the beginning and just like skip all the way to the end like immediately? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to see. I don't know much about like Adobe Vision or Adobe Atmos or whatever, any of that. I want to see, to me, the biomes and the color palette that they use. I think that's really the most important thing in really, at least I take away from any art style, is like, what's the color palette that you're using? And when I see like the lush greens from Halo, it looks like we may get a more vibrant game. And that's really awesome, because half the time when we take a look at shooters, it's just like, gray, dirt, and grime. And to see like, no, this is actually going to be colorful and, still keep with the Halo tradition. It's going to be nice, man. I'm really excited to see what this game is going to actually look like. And when I think about like the Dolby Atmos stuff, like, I really want to know, when you're going into like deep corridors, dark corridors, like maybe the reintroduction of the flood, if you played Halo Wars 2, like I want to see that. I want to see the contrast of that as well. You know, we're like, yeah, like we're in like, let's just say a jungle, because that's what I'm looking at right here. And then all of a sudden you turn into a cave, it's dark, and you just hear the flood. You know, you don't even see them, you
Yes,
just
that's
hear
what
them.
I'm
Like,
talking about. Yep.
yeah, that gets me super excited. So that's what I want to see more so than anything, because I don't know if my TV, it's no TCL, King, calm down. But like, I don't know if it supports the Dolby stuff. But
my TV supports Atmos, but not Vision. So I'm going to be honest with you. This holiday, I am potentially going to really, put some bucks away. I might get a CX. Yeah, because I love Samsung, but I keep hearing nothing but good things about the CX. What the hell's the name of that the brand?
the LG, right?
The LGs, yeah. And
I've been saying to everyone, a lot of people have been asking me last year, should I upgrade right away to buy an OLED LG CX? Because basically the CX and the C9 were at the time the only TVs that support all the features that we want. Besides Dolby Vision, of course, there's a lot of other stuff like 120 frames and stuff like that. I'm blanking on it now. Variable refresh rate and stuff like that. And basically, we're only able to buy the LG TVs. And I've been telling everyone, save your money for like 6 to 8 months and wait for the TV lineup from 2021, because now more or less every supplier that releases their this year TV lineup has at least support for most of those features. So now you have a much wider range, because as much as I love my LG TV, it is awesome. It's the best TV on the market. It's also quite pricey, and not everyone can afford that. And there are now this year a lot of other TVs on the market that will support 120 frames, variable refresh rate, and Dolby Vision for a lot less money. And I've been already getting some DMs that said thank you for giving me that advice. And so this holiday you have a lot more TVs to choose from than the LG.
My TV isn't even like that old, so like I'm trying to go to like family and friends going, okay, listen, I'll give you this TV.
Yeah, do you need a TV? Because I got one for you.
Exactly. You know, and because I dropped some big money on that LG, because honestly, seeing like Horizon and seeing like Halo, I'm like, oh man, I bought this.
If you can afford it, it's worth it. I'm not really. The LG is definitely worth it. And I'm always saying I'm spending like I don't know how many thousands of hours each year playing on that TV. For me, it's worth the investment. But obviously, if you don't are that hardcore gamer or just want to save a little bit of money, the LG is just it's a pricey TV.
Well worth the price of admission. But you know what, Archimedes, let's get your opinion on this. Are you happy to know that one of the flagship titles for Xbox, one of the biggest titles at this E3? Listen, I know that each of the big three, plus all the third-party ones, are going to be bringing big games. But if I don't think it's you can suggest that one of the biggest, one of the most eyes that will be on said game is Halo Infinite for a ridiculous amount of reasons. Are you happy to know that they are not only going to bring us an incredible game? Like I said, I have no doubt that 343 is going to deliver on the graphics, but now with Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos, we're going to hear it and see it the best way you could possibly imagine.
I would have been very disappointed if they didn't include it, to be honest. I think flagship title like Halo with an engine that is apparently one of the most modern gaming engines in the world should support the state-of-the-art technology. And Dolby Vision is just amazing. It's a true game changer when it comes to visuals. I think it makes more difference to have Dolby Vision than native 4K and all the other stuff that fanboys are arguing about. Dolby Vision actually enhances the image quality, and you don't need a digital foundry to point out that this is not a native 4K image or something like that. You can actually see it yourself, that it makes a huge difference when it comes to contrasts, when it comes to The color palette, it's just a night and day difference when you compare it to HDR10 or even SDR, of course.
Right.
It's so I'm really happy to see that. I can't wait to play it in with Dolby Vision support, and I just hope that every major game release is going to adapt to Dolby Vision, because more or less every major game engine I know of does support it. So it shouldn't be that big of a work for developers to enable it. And yeah, I hope that we see all the other major releases this year as well with Dolby Vision.
Yeah, that actually makes both of us. Josh, let's get your opinion on this. Are you, like myself, a graphics whore? And does this news excite you on one of not only Microsoft's biggest flagship titles, but one of the games that is going to be really showcased this fall when it releases? Are you happy to know that at launch we are getting, and if your TV supports it, you're going to be able to play with the best visuals as well as the best audio in the business?
Yes, make Halo look as amazing as possible. That's what I'm all about, right? This honestly feels like the way the 360 felt. Like the 360 was the driving force for a lot of us to upgrade to HD TVs. I mean, we had to hook them up component, right?
Oh my God, yes.
Back in the day before the Xbox Elite came out. And I'm just getting similar vibes from that. It's like I'm going to be upgrading.
And now that you say it, if I think about it, I think the first 2 or 3 years I played still on a CRT on with my Xbox 360 before I had an LCD.
Yeah, I had the Sony 32-inch Trinitron like Wega or whatever. That's what I played. You know, it had component, but it was only 480p or whatever. And so, like it's been strange for me a little bit. I've been playing the Switch, right? I say it a lot, but I haven't had to worry about that stuff. And then getting the X, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait, what is all this? Like, I tried buying a monitor thinking I was getting everything I needed, and it was like, well, it does this, but it doesn't do that, you know. And so you can do 2K at 120, but you can't do 4K. And then I remember being like, what is 2K? All I've ever like when you're looking at TVs, it went 1080p, 4K. What's this 2K nonsense, you know? So it's kind of been cool getting back into it and learning all about it. I put up an article not too long ago talking about these LG TVs for the Series X. My buddy has one, and when we hooked up my Series X to that thing. It was unreal. Seeing Black Ops on that. I think he has like a 50-inch or whatever. It was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, this is why we spent the money on next gen consoles, right? This is why we wanted to move to next generation in a big way, and this is, for me, this is very exciting because, like I said, I'm gonna probably wind up upgrading this TV and finding a family member, like Joe said, who actually needs a new TV and upgrade to again, I'm not the biggest fan of LG TVs. Not that they're not good, I just don't know them that well. I've always been a Samsung kind of a guy. I'm hoping that Samsung does gives us the ability to do Dolby Vision. I don't know.
I'm
if
on the
they
same
do
boat
that.
as well for you when it comes to the LG. Like I just don't know them. I hear great things, but like we've always been, in terms of TVs, we've always been a Sony household.
Okay, that's not surprising because you are related to Jim Ryan, folks. Breaking news,
Uncle Jim.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
I love it. First of all, I have to thank. We have a new channel member, and I don't know how I'm going to pronounce this. I'm probably going to get it wrong. It's Roj, and it's RO I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. I got it wrong. I know I did. But listen, he became a channel member. I want to say thank you for supporting Double Barrel Gaming there, Rorge, because listen, we just started the back up. We just opened all of the ways to support Double Barrel Gaming back up. Again, it was something that me and Mrs. Boomstick, now that she's working on the channel full time with me, needed to do. I never knew that you had to, there was a difference between different types of channels when it's one person or two people. Listen, I'm new to YouTube, folks. I didn't realize that, but we're all good to go. If you want to support Double Barrel Gaming the way you were doing it before, super chats are enabled, as well as super stickers. And of course, if you want to be a channel member, there are 2 levels, nothing crazy, $5 and $10, and we definitely appreciate it. It gives us an ability to, of course, do these big giveaways. And one of the biggest giveaways that we are doing is the 10K giveaway. We're not as close as I would like. We're about 1,600 subs away. You know, I mean, obviously we'll get there eventually. And when we do, if you're subscribed to the channel, well, you have a shot at 2 prizes. The grand prize, a Series X, free of charge with a year of Xbox Game Pass, sent to you and paid for by Mrs. Boomstick and myself, and runner-up prize, and it's not too shabby, a Series S with a year of Xbox Game Pass. And you know what? Hopefully, some of that that supports the channel wins, because obviously I leave it up to the picker. And when we get there, we'll be giving, as we get more close to the 10K, we will talk about it more and let people know that, you know, what they have to do. And simply, it's easy. Just click subscribe and you're in. It's that simple. DeAndre Banks, generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat, says, "Hey, Boom, how about that Jim Ryan? We believe in generations, LOL. But he lied and let Xbox take the heat about games on last gen hardware." Yeah, I mean, the people in the industry are giving them the business for that. I mean, Look, I'm going to be honest with you.
I don't know what you're talking about. I never said such a thing.
Yeah, well, there you go, Jim. Thanks for clarifying that. He's no comment. No comment, yeah. Jim.
That's right. That's right.
We also have another super chat come in from a very good friend of the show, Gerald Mack. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, "Finally got my hands on a PlayStation 5. Good for you, dude. That's awesome. Happy about that. Thank you, Mr. Badbit, and How to Guide on the Reddit. Shout out to Boom, Stick, and the panel. Well, dude, congratulations on getting that PlayStation 5, because that's literally like finding the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. All of these consoles are. It is even hard to find a freaking Switch, let alone next gen. So congratulations on that. And a good friend of the show has become a channel member once again, Viper XT. What's up, brother? Thank you for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. And Stubbs Gaming, good friend of the show, all the way from the other side of the pond. He drops a $2 super chat and says, "VJ, I hope he has a cup of tea at the ready." And I believe he probably doesn't. Speaking of VJ, listen, you know, we talk on this show every week. And to be honest, I don't necessarily know where the graphics and sound for you as a gamer comes into play. Are you happy to know that one of the biggest titles releasing this year is supporting 2 of the biggest and newest technologies in Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision?
To be honest, I really have no idea what the Dolby experience is effectively like. So it's kind of impossible for me to comment or say something, right? I have relatively speaking, no knowledge of. But look, if it really does everything advertised by Mr. Badbit and Archimedes, and there are no side effects or downsides, and it enhances the overall interactive gaming experience for everybody, then I'm all for it. And I hope I can rely on Archimedes for some input as to which TV to purchase later this year or next year.
Of course, just hit me up.
Yeah.
Happy to advise.
Thank you. And so, Boom, I'm really sorry I can't offer
No.
more.
Listen, the honesty is definitely appreciated. But listen, folks, a great way to open up. We're almost at 300 people. We're only 24 minutes in, and we're going to get to some of the bigger topics. And listen, folks, it's just games. If we have different opinions, it's okay, right? We don't all have to agree. Some topics you're going to cheer. Some topics you're going to boo. Now, I don't know about this one, but...
Nope, I'm right. You're wrong.
Yeah, we could get a lot of that. You know what? Before we get to the booing topic, because I think I'm going to get some boos on this, I want to go with topic number 2 that I have listed here. And it's about Xbox Game Pass specifically. With all of the amazing Xbox Game Pass talk in the last few months, folks, many in this community are asking what will be the big announcements that are rumored for E3 2021. Now, obviously, last week we got, and I say we because I'm an Xbox Game Pass supporter, we got Mech Warrior 5, right? And that's pretty dope. I have not played it because guess what? When you produce 4 live shows, folks, you kind of don't get as much time as you want, and I can't stop playing Mass Effect. It's like crack cocaine. But we have confirmation that the new Dark Alliance title that looks dope is coming day and date. But, folks, we have some other rumors that we have to talk about. Now, thanks to Pong Soul, who is in the chat. That is my brother from another. He is obviously one of the hosts on the Tuesday Xbox Factor podcast. He had confirmed for us this Tuesday that if you folks didn't know this, Xbox/Microsoft, same company, helped in the funding of Techland's Dying Light 2, folks. I bet you didn't know that. Well, yes, he confirmed it for us live on the air. He found the article. And if Pong, if you're listening and you want to drop that into the chat so people can see that we're not lying, I would greatly appreciate it. But that to me seems like it's almost a lock to be in Xbox Game Pass. Now, I'm not going to suggest for a second that they're going to announce that it's exclusive. Maybe they have a timed exclusive. Maybe they bought Techland and haven't announced it yet. I don't know, but I think it's safe to say that Techland's Dying Light 2, which looked incredibly scary, and I don't think Zemi, if you're listening, is ever going to play that game. We also have new information about DICE's Battlefield 6, and there was some interaction between Xbox on Twitter and one of the community managers that basically suggested that, hey, don't leave out Battlefield 6, and they were talking Xbox Game Pass. I think that's their day and date as well. I think that is one of the big announcements we're going to get. But one of the other things outside of Ubisoft Plus that I think is almost a guarantee announcement at this year's E3, I think Far Cry 6 is day and date. And you know what? For me, it doesn't matter because I got the dope ass Flamethrower Collector's Edition. I posted that on Twitter, and yes, that is awesome. It is a life-size flamethrower. Does it work? Well, my neighbor's going to find out soon enough. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to flamethrow anybody, but it does look real, and you could probably get arrested if you were running downtown with that thing in your hand. But
that got me good, Boom.
The question that I have for the panel, the questions that I have for this incredible chat that is over 300 people right now. What other big announcements do you expect? And are we getting any shadow drops like a 12 minutes, like a Tunic, like a Scorn at this year's E3? Archimedes, let's start with you. Where do you think, and how big do you think that the E3 Xbox Game Pass segment is going to be during Microsoft and Bethesda's event?
I'll start with your last question because there are multiple in there. I think we will get a very good time slot for Game Pass announcement, like probably 10 minutes or so on this show. Xbox is Game Pass, and it's their big thing, and
yes,
they will use the biggest show of the year definitely to properly advertise that title. You will hear multiple times that probably all games that will be shown will come to Game Pass and stuff like that. They will definitely emphasize that. They will again reassure us that every first party game, every Bethesda game, and so on will be there day one in Game Pass. And since they did it with Outriders earlier this year and bring a major game release from a third-party publisher day and date into Game Pass, I bet they will have another announcement from one of these 3 games that you mentioned. It's at E3. It's either Battlefield, it's Far Cry, or Dying Light. I could even imagine that they will do or bring 2 of those 3 into Game Pass, but then they probably don't announce all all these releases at E3 because they want to keep up the hype over the rest of the year. Yeah, and they need to save some announcements for a little bit later. They won't tell us everything at E3, but yeah, I definitely see one of these 3 being announced as a day one. If I would be a betting man, I'd probably bet on Far Cry, simply for that reason that every Far Cry trailer I have seen and every interview and everything that they put out had at the end the Xbox logo and a serious SNX advertisement. I've never seen Microsoft's advertise a third-party marketing deal that aggressively, to be honest. I've always said, so when Sony has a third-party marketing deal, they always make it look like that's an exclusive to their console. Yeah, if you remember Destiny, everyone thought this is a PlayStation exclusive, and Microsoft never did that. And this time they changed that. They are definitely putting a lot of emphasis on Far Cry 6, that this is an Xbox marketing deal, and you see, like I said, after every trailer, every advertisement, the Xbox logo, nothing of the PlayStation. That is new to me, and that just gives me that feeling it could be Far Cry that they announce to come day and date. But we'll see. Like I said, I expect one of these 3 to be announced. Yeah.
And it would be big. It would be
Absolutely.
big. Listen, I don't want to sound greedy. I kind of want all 3. Like I said, I'm already buying Far Cry 6. It's one of my favorite franchises from outside of Assassin's Creed. I always 1,000 out of 1,000 those games. I just love them. I just absolutely love them. I loved what I saw, and who could not love Chorizo? The little dog that could. I mean, come on. He is. He looks awesome.
Such a good boy.
Absolutely,
Such
he
a
does.
good boy.
He really is, isn't he? Isn't he just an awesome dog? But I want to talk to Joe. Listen, we know how important Xbox Game Pass is to Xbox's platform. And obviously, like I've said, we've seen both companies, Sony has pulled a Microsoft. Microsoft has pulled a Sony. We have seen it, right? Yeah. And they are kind of pulling a Sony. When Sony was not struggling, but didn't have a lot of their big, quote unquote, bangers ready. Right? What happened? They depended heavily on third-party deals, exclusives, and getting games that they can only get on the PlayStation. Well, I'm not saying that you can't get Far Cry on a PlayStation 5. What I'm saying is that if you want to only have to pay $15 a month to get it, you can if it's going to be an Xbox Game Pass. How big do you think they're going to make this segment at their E3?
So I think the only one that's going to be on Game Pass is Battlefield. I think when it comes to Far Cry, the PlayStation investor relations meeting saw Far Cry 6 as one of their third-party marketed games. So like we saw Far Cry, we saw like Ghostwire, we saw Deathloop, but also could be a good way of them saying, I'd say never in terms of seeing oh goodness, Ubisoft, whatever Ubisoft's thing is, they're
Ubisoft Plus.
Maybe that's the way they circumvent it, that marketing deal. But you'd also piss off your marketing associate, and seeing how PlayStation has been so, hey, if we're marketing this game, it can't come to Game Pass for X amount of days with Capcom. I think that's going to be the same there. When it comes to Dying Light, they've already said they're not bought out by Microsoft. It's maybe they probably have a marketing deal with Microsoft. We'll probably see, though, and I wouldn't be surprised if Microsoft gave them money. Although they're like Dying to Know episodes have been PC centric and not branded by any means, but I'm thinking that's going to be changed closer to when this game comes out. I think the one that makes the absolute most sense, because like if you're Dying Light and you are like this, solo developer slash publisher, or sorry, Techland, you probably want those day one sales really, really bad. Microsoft's going to have to pay a huge, pretty penny for that game to get on Game Pass. So I think, eventually down the line, for sure, this game will be on Game Pass. I don't know necessarily day one. I think Battlefield's a different story because of EA Play, their relationships, the teases with Battlefield, and they've been like somewhat subtle about it, like subtle, but yet not at the same time, about them being at E3 in some certain way, shape, or form. I think that is the one that's going to be on Game Pass, because if you look at Dying Light and you take a look at Far Cry, though they're both first person, they're not the Twitch-based shooters that we see, or multiplayer shooters that we see out of Battlefield, Halo, and Call of Duty. That's going to be a lot of competition for Battlefield right out the gate, and I think they really do want to punch Call of Duty in the gut this time around. And I think they have the opportunity to as well, to really bruise them in a big way. So I just think just the way EA
especially
marketed.
Pardon me, just one thing. Now that you say it, I mean, EA is no stranger to microtransactions, right?
Exactly.
So yeah.
Just the way their business is structured. Like, I would be very surprised we don't see Madden or FIFA. Maybe not FIFA because PlayStation, but like we see Madden there going, day and day on Game Pass. Like that, I think would be even bigger than Dying Light or Far Cry. That would be way bigger than those two, because the amount of money that EA gets and generates for microtransactions would be a great test to see how much more money they can make on this Game Pass bet. So I really think you're going to see a stronger partnership between EA and Microsoft that we haven't seen in a bit. So yeah, that's what I really think. I think the partnerships really are going to be lying with EA at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. They've had a fantastic working relationship. So yeah, a Madden potentially, a FIFA potentially, and I think those two particular games, they do stand out because of how much money they actually make in the microtransactions, and that's why, again, Battlefield kind of fits that same pattern, because Battlefield, again, I'm not saying I think Battlefield does not have an uphill battle against Call of Duty, because Call of Duty, in my opinion, has taken a step back, going back to the 50s rather than keeping it modern, where everyone that is anyone who likes modern shooters and really enjoys Battlefield's take on it has been asking for them to return to the modern era, and apparently they're going to do that in a big way. So it's going to be very interesting to see. I think that we get a couple of very big announcements in regards to stealth drops. I don't think they're going to be huge games in like AAA size. I think you're going to get 12 minutes. Possibly. I'd love to see a 12 minutes in a Tunic get spotlight on E3. Two smaller titles that look absolutely stunning. I mean, I don't know where the gunk is. That's a game I'm looking forward to. I know some people have already said Psychonauts 2 could drop during E3. I don't think that's going to, because that means they'd be going directly head to head with Ratchet and Clank, which I believe, Joe, is that the 10th or the 11th?
It's the 11th.
It's the 11th. So, I mean, I don't know if you want to do platform to platform, but either way, I'm interested to see what they are.
I think they're different enough. I think those two are different enough, but I do think they want to, again, I think Psychonauts is more like an August thing.
Yeah, I agree.
Or like
I think
thing,
yeah, maybe even a late July potentially, because that's a good time for it as well. I mean, you also have the Ascent coming at the end of July, so maybe we get that even before then. Who knows? It's going to be interesting. But Josh, let's get your opinion on this. Where do you fall in regards to how big the Game Pass segment should or could be for Microsoft?
I feel like getting games on Game Pass is going to make getting games exclusive kind of go to the wayside a little bit. Right? Like, I feel like it's going to be a massive part of the show that, to a certain extent, if we look at what they've done with the last two major titles, the MLB The Show and Outriders, it was like just a couple weeks, right?
Yes.
A few weeks before the launch, and then so we might have to look for hints, right? It might be like, what third-party games are we seeing being showcased during the Xbox event, if any? And then maybe it'll be like, okay, it's kind of like we were just talking about with Far Cry, how the end of all the like, that's the first thing as soon as I watched the Far Cry trailer, I was like, why is there Xbox logo at the end of this? What that seems a little fishy. You know what I mean?
Well, you can almost expect Melissa McGame Pass to potentially start dropping hints as we get closer to E3.
So I think Game Pass is going to crush with a handful of new titles, but I also think there's the potential for them to be like, and now we're adding 50 more games, and you're going to have, like, they can just keep raising that number to make it more and more inviting to the masses. And the other thing for me, I'm still waiting on the invite to cloud gaming. So I'm hoping they're going to be like, hey, and cloud is now available for everybody on iOS, because I'm still waiting. Like, I just want the invite, hook me up.
Well, hopefully you get that soon enough. I do want to move on to VJ. VJ, you've been hearing what everyone had to say.
Yep.
Game Pass, it is the bottom line about Game Pass. It is Microsoft's big play. I'm expecting that they'll be they have to be closer to 25 million. I think they're going to hit 30 million by the end of the year. And again, that's nothing outside of the 1 million per month they have been averaging. So 30 million seems about right in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm interested to know yours. How big do you think this segment is, and what games do you expect for them to drop in there? Are we going to be surprised by some third-party deals that we did not see coming?
Game Pass is pivotal to the Xbox division. I remember the first ever show that you invited me onto, Boom, where I said that I think Game Pass at the time was actually driven out of necessity for Microsoft getting back into the games industry. And I primarily still believe it was driven by Satya saying to Phil, listen, if you want to get the Xbox division up and running, you want to have us invest into it, then coexist with Microsoft's overarching business strategy of providing services for a subscription fee. And he would have just pointed to Microsoft 365 and say, look at this business model. We have 120 million subscribers. It's incredibly successful. And if you can implement that overarching business strategy synergistically with your gaming division, you've got a green light. And I think Phil went away, and out of that was born Game Pass. So whether we think it's important or not is irrelevant. I think it's absolutely pivotal, and it goes back all the way back to 2013, 2014, whenever Phil was put in charge of the Xbox division. So Boom, I'm not as well versed as the rest of the panel when it comes to forthcoming games and the relative publisher and studios that create them. And even if I was well versed, I think the panel have probably covered off the usual suspects and even the potential sort of outside contenders that could probably grace Game Pass. So I would still, for me, look at potentially back catalogue games that are released in the last few years. And that's where I would sort of fundamentally focus my thoughts. And I'll tell you why. So you've got Sega, right? We've talked a lot about Sega and the Yakuza series coming to Xbox and Game Pass, and how Sega have said, look, it's really worked out well for them. And I still look at Yakuza Like a Dragon, Judgment, and Persona 5 to Game Pass, especially in the lieu of Lost Judgment, right, arriving in September, right, and Judgment being a 3 or 4 year old game now. And I would look to still see how further forward have Microsoft perhaps blossomed their partnership with Bandai Namco. And there's the Dark Souls series, the Ni no Kuni series, and perhaps even, should I dare say, Elden Ring, right, coming to Game Pass. You've got Sekiro from Activision, from From Software. You've got Resident Evil 2 and 3 from Capcom. And I'm sure there are plenty more the panel and the community in the chat may wish to request or have graced the sort of ever-expanding library shelves, or should I say library walls, right, of Game Pass. And the reason why I'm mentioning these, just as a facet of Game Pass, not be all and end all, is that this is all in strategic alignment with Phil's global plan, including specifically Japan and Asia Pacific. And it's all possible given the incredible amounts we as a, and I don't want to look at like as an individual, but if you look at it from the other perspective, as a unified community, provide and contribute to Xbox's cash flow on a monthly basis. And I don't know if it's at 30 million, but even if you take the 25 million number, right, that's 25 million consumers that subscribe to Game Pass. That's pretty close to 1.2 billion a quarter. So to Mr. Badbit's point, in comparison, Sony barely hit 750 million a quarter via PlayStation Plus and its content offering. So they've definitely got the resources in terms of cash flow, besides the financial power, to pull off some, I don't want to say some strategic moves, but some strategic moves and master strokes, right, to really put Game Pass front and center. I don't want to go too much into it because I don't want to kind of cannibalize my thoughts in terms of some of the other topics that you've laid out for us today, Boom. So I hope that's decent enough for you.
Yeah, no. I mean, listen, it's a fantastic, well thought out opinion as always. But listen, folks, all I know is that we have been hearing from a few connections that I have. You've heard many of the Special Nick talk about it. You've Jeff Grubb talk about it. There are going to be some big announcements for Xbox Game Pass surrounding E3 for a lot of reasons. Microsoft is going to have center stage with Bethesda. They're going to have their I'm assuming sharing the show to some extent, where they're each going to have 45 minutes. And I think Game Pass has to be there, but I think they also have to wow people into again, we know what's coming in November with Halo, but we don't know much more than that. Only a few titles have gotten release dates, one of which was The Ascent. I believe that is the 29th of July. That's going to be a big game, but I want to know what else of those games from May 2020 and the July 2020 show that wowed me personally that we know are going into Game Pass. When are they releasing, and what surprises we're going to get? Real quick, I have to catch up with some of the super chats, and we actually have a few channel members. First of all, JD Gamer, generous friend of the show, he says this after dropping a $5 super chat. Boom, I really like your show, and I like Colt Eastwood. I mean, like, who doesn't like Colt Eastwood? I wish your shows would stop being at the same time. Oh, what's the contest? I missed half of it. Yeah, what's going to happen is if you are a subscriber to the channel, Mrs. Boomstick and I are giving about $1,200 of prizes away. If once we hit the 10,000 subscribers, top prize, Series X, year of Game Pass. Runner-up prize, not too shabby, Series S, and of course a year of Game Pass. And we're going to be doing a few other things that we haven't announced, that we have been, we've been kind of putting away some of the monies that we get from YouTube. We have a couple of big announcements in regards to prize packages that all you have to do is, drop a super chat in, be a channel member, you automatically enter twice, and you be in the chat when we have these particular events, and you have a chance to win one of the prizes. I'll be announcing some of those things as we get our P's and Q's together soon enough. But good news, JD Gamer, we have officially moved primetime gaming from 8 o'clock to 7 p.m. So you can get an hour of the show before you move on to Colt Eastwood, or if the conversation is that engaging, then you hang out with us and then you watch Colt on the replay. Listen, either way, I'm happy for the view. I'm very happy for Colt Eastwood. He's doing some big things, but we had to kind of get out of his way a little bit, because going head to head with Colt, I'm sorry, we're too small. So we are going to be going every Monday evening at 7 p.m. rather than 8 p.m. And hopefully we can garner the same kind of views and live views, more importantly, that we had before. And of course, listen, YouTube is packed with incredible talent, and there's only so much room. So of course, I don't mind bowing out gracefully and giving Colt the 8 o'clock spots, but we're going to be going at 7 so we can get people to hang out with us an hour before Colt goes live. Let me continue with the super chats. We had, let me see. We have Drawn TJ. Thanks for hanging out with us, dude. He drops a $2 super chat, and I agree with this. He says, I want to see Splinter Cell. I'm still hoping for the lights. We got one more thing, and the noise of the goggles, and on the bottom it says Xbox exclusive. Now, how long of an exclusive? I'll say this. I think they should pull a Sony, and they should lock it up for 2 years. That's what they should do. Pay whatever money they have to pay. They want to spend the money. They lost out on 2 big sales, right? They didn't get TikTok and they didn't get Discord, so they have money to burn. Burn the money, give a 2-year paycheck of a lot of zeros to get a Splinter Cell exclusive. Sam Fisher started on Xbox, and he deserves a rebirth, in my opinion. Gerald Mack, he drops a $2 super chat and says, please ask Archimedes to say Wolfenstein. Say it, please, sir.
It's my big challenge to teach you guys,
teach us how to say it correctly.
Yes. We have the Stein already covered. This is already pretty good. The wolf is what everyone is pronouncing wrong. It's not wolf, it's wolf. Yeah, so Wolfenstein.
There you go. I think I might have gotten it. So thank you for that, brother. New channel member, Geek Roar. Hey, dude, thanks so much for joining Double Barrel Gaming. Definitely super appreciate that. Now, I believe I got his name wrong. It's the Arnie F. He drops a $2 super chat and says, E3, imagine Doom spinoff in vein of Fallout 76. Look, dude, honestly, we have a whole topic. You know what? I'm not even going to answer. I'm going to come back to you, Arnie. But I got to tell you, we have a whole topic because we all have been talking about what is Xbox going to bring. But most people have forgot that, yes, Bethesda is first party, and yes, they're coming to the big dance. What are they going to bring? That's one of the big topics we're going to cover. Of course, I want to thank, we got another channel member. Who is this? Oh, Scrub Nurse. Hey, dude, welcome. He's actually going to be on this Monday's newly changed to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Primetime Gaming. Scrub Nurse making his debut to hang out. Thank you for becoming a channel member there. But let's I got everybody. Okay, so everyone had their opinion. This is where we get to the potential boos for Mr. Boomstick XL and the way I write these topics. Now, I don't think I'm too off the mark here, to be honest with you. But get ready and let's see what you guys and gals have to say about this. The next topic, the one I think is the spiciest of the bunch, is this. With the recent 14-minute vertical slices of both Insomniac's Ratchet & Clank Ripped Apart and Guerrilla Games' incredible Horizon Forbidden West, one of my games and potentially could be my game of the year if it releases this year. The question that I have for the chat, the question that I have for the panel is, what is the urgency level for Xbox and / or Bethesda to show off gameplay of a first-party AAA title to match both of these games? Do they have to respond? And I want to go first to VJ. VJ, I'm going to you first. You're the linguist of the group. You got the biggest brain. I got to hear your opinion on this. Does Microsoft / Bethesda have to respond in a big way with first party?
If I fell off my chair, boom.
How you like them apples? You know, you always got to stay your toes with me, brother. I tell you that.
Oh dear. Look, I think it's important to note that it's not a matter of Xbox responding per se, or the fact that they need to respond. From my perspective, and I'm going to try and come at this objectively, but also, you know, from a business perspective, but also as a fan, right, yearning for a response. So I'm kind of straddle both sides, if you like. But first of all, let's look at it this way, right? Xbox sent out us, the audience, right, a sort of a responde s'il vous plaît, right? And I'm sure, even though Archimedes, I don't know if he speaks French, but he might correct my pronunciation. An RSVP, right, cordially sort of inviting us to celebrate with them on a given date and time. We've all accepted the invitation, and we're kind of sort of excited by the ever-present sort of magical potential and promise as to what this event in 2021 might have in store for all of us. And I know you mentioned the two games, Horizon Zero Dawn 2 and Ratchet and Clank, and there's been plenty of stuff written about it, good and bad, etc., and so on and so forth. But is that, for me personally, the biggest compliment I can pay both of those in terms of games? It's nothing to do with Sony. It's just looking at the artistic and technical delivery, right? Is that in my capacity, and my imagination is not great, right? I don't have a great imagination. Is that my capacity for believing in things that I didn't think possible has recently expanded, especially after observing and discussing with sort of development colleagues, the aforementioned Ratchet and Clank and Forbidden West, and I'd include the Unreal Engine 5 interactive demo, right? All which, for me, to my eyes, right, and again, it's subjective, are brilliant, right? So in a nutshell, Xbox with this upcoming event must at least try to make believers, I should say, out of its apparent, targeted 2 billion consumers, right? That's their business strategy, right? That's their approach, that's their target. So Ratchet and Clank, I look at that, and someone mentioned it's out on June 11th, is it? June 11th? And
yes.
Sorry, Boom. Yeah, and so Ratchet and Clank is being released 2 days prior to the Xbox event. So by actually releasing a fully fledged next-gen game, it's Sony's way of synergizing with and captivating E3. While they're not a part of E3 per se, they are certainly part of the opening ceremony. And as I say, with a next-gen title launch that you can actually play, and perhaps that is the point that needs to be addressed. So if I'm Xbox, my counter response to Sony and Ratchet and Clank, and it's just me, right? And that's down to how Phil ultimately calculates what the measured response should be, right? Or the calculated response should be, right, to Sony, right? If they deem it's at all necessary, right? I would then anticipate or hazard a guess that Game Pass is one of the main pillars, as I've already said, and the panel have actually all said as well, is one of the main focuses at E3 for Xbox and Phil, expanding and evolving the service by hopefully, or presumably, as we've discussed in the previous topics, by adding extravagant or even outlandish content to Game Pass, either immediately or imminently, right? And my other point is that when you're mass market consumer, and I'm not talking about us guys on the panel because we're kind of pretty hardcore, right? But your mass market consumer, right? The really huge audience that both Sony and Microsoft and Nintendo are trying to captivate. When they viewed Horizon Forbidden West, sorry if I get the name wrong, on the PS5, and it's had almost like 10 million views in a week just on the Sony channel. Yep. My immediate thoughts were, wow, this is brilliant. And in what possible fashion is the PS4 going to run this game, albeit being a cross-gen title? And that was the same concern I levied at the Cyberpunk, right, prior to its release, because just in terms of how ambitious it looked. So back to Xbox, if they do proceed to showcase cross-gen titles, which I have no issue with, since it's all based on the technology and the knowledge available at the time when these games were conceived or greenlit. Remember, some of these games were greenlit back in 2017 and 2018, right? And you've got studios with burn rates of $3 to $4 million a month. They weren't sitting around waiting for the PS5 specs to be, or the Xbox specs to be confirmed by Cerny or Jason Ronald, right? Forgive me if I get the names wrong, right? They had to make a decision, and all of these games from 2017 and 2018 were prepared and prepped, and everyone was developing on PS4, right? So in terms of Xbox, what are they presumably right to do? I wouldn't presume that they have to do it, but what could they conceivably do, right? So if you're going to show us games, show us the Xbox Series X versions of these games and entice me as a consumer to wonder how it's possibly going to scale across generations, because what you're showing me right now is fundamentally blowing me away. And it's hard to imagine playing these games on a less powerful set of specifications. It's only because I want to have the best experience, right? And that's me personally speaking now. So what you're fundamentally doing by that, right, is propelling potential consumers to go out and purchase a Series X or an S if you're inclined towards having the best possible experience. And look, regardless of what anyone says, hardware sales at this early in the generation are still massively, and I would say fundamentally important and relative today. And Xbox aren't that far off, right? Let's be honest, right? The race isn't won by Sony, no matter how much they turn around and advertise the point, right? And Alternatively, what I should say, they're in a fight, right, with Xbox, right? The Xbox is not backing down or going away by any stretch of the imagination. So, alternatively, if you don't want to go out and buy a Series X or S because that's not the only target audience that they're effectively targeting, drive those people to look at these games and say, you know what are the access points for Game Pass besides my mobile device? And that's something that I think was talked about earlier, right? And I don't want to go into it, but something announced in relation to this would not only be incredible, but extremely valuable to the Xbox brand and Phil's ambitions. Phil knows what he intends to do in order to achieve his goals. It's a really E3 is an opportune time to quench the thirst of an onlooking, I should say, and highly anticipating global audience. We're all highly sort of, I don't know what, geared up or whatever, excited, right, for this show. You do that. How do you build up that hype, and how do you deliver on that hype? You do that through just the basics, right? Showcasing content and selling and adhering to a long-term vision, and telling your audience and confirming and selling it to them that we're going to be much more consistent going forward. And as I said last week, the duration of the show is irrelevant. You can easily get, if you really wanted to, you could get away with a 20-minute show, right? Even half a dozen good first-party titles previewed for 3 minutes each with footage that we haven't seen before. Job done. And quality for me always shines through, right? Quantity or any sort of volume doesn't always hit the mark, and we've seen this before, right? In previous showcase, not just from Microsoft, but all the platform holders, right? So for me, it's showcase creativity and technical prowess, because that has been one of the mantras or promises that Phil has laid down, right, as a marker since December 2019, all the way back to the Game Awards, right, when they showcased the most powerful hardware system, right, console hardware system that's going to be available on the market. And I'd also direct the communication to address to include all gamers, not just the Xbox fan or Game Pass subscribers. And that kind of leans into Phil's beliefs, right, and a course of action that he's been trying to take to kill off tribalism, if not marginalize it. It's a difficult thing to do, but I commend him for doing it, right? And let's make things clear. I'm not looking, because I know, forgive me if I'm wrong, Boom, but you kind of mentioned Ratchet and Clank and Psychonauts, maybe one offsetting against the other and so forth.
Yes.
So look, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but from my point of view, let's make things clear. I'm not looking for a like-for-like comparable title from Xbox. It's I don't know how to say this politely. I'll just say it, but you understand this with full respect. But that's kind of like a foolish and undermines differentiating creative thought between different studios and creatives, and not just creative thought, but expression as well, right? However, I'm totally confident that whatever Xbox offer will be different, but that just broadens the scope of the products that are available for us to consume.
Yeah, no, you're correct in saying so. I mean, obviously, look, my whole point with one versus the other isn't. I'm not suggesting that Double Fine's title cannot hold up to a Ratchet and Clank. I'm not saying that. I've seen that game. That game looks gorgeous. My point isn't so much that one is better than the other. That's not it. My point is you want both games to breathe.
Absolutely. And look, we can all sit here and say, but we know that the burden of truth sits on Xbox's shoulders till the June the 13th, where they can change the dynamic of the landscape in their favor. They initiated the show. We didn't force it upon them. So they definitely have products or content to showcase right now. And yes, we've been waiting patiently as consumers for Xbox to showcase what they have, so we can all partake in Xbox's vision for the division and how they plan to meet their future business growth, profit, and creative goals. As a consumer, and I'm nearly done here, Boom, so you can kick me off in a minute. As a consumer,
no, keep going, brother. This is a conversational podcast. I love what you're bringing. I love it.
As a consumer, with my hands firmly joined together, not for prayer, but to focus myself sincerely, right? Especially when it comes to E3. Since I'm not in control, Phil is. Please deliver something entrancing and tantalizing. Having money is not a moral achievement. Buying your way out of trouble is not always the answer. And credit to Dali, intelligence and power without creative ambition is like a bird without wings. For a long time, this is the lesson. And Boom, you know this from the first ever show, almost a year ago when I came on. I've wanted Xbox to show me that they have understood, cultivated, and made creativity the first and foremost at the forefront and made it a part of their DNA. Narrative is all well and good, but you have to change the perspective and perception of all gamers, of the masses. And You do that by engaging people's minds with good and great content. So, in your words, Boom, let's go.
Yeah, well, I love what you bring to the table, brother. Really good stuff. And you know what? Take a drink, make a sip of tea, because now you can sit back and enjoy the rest of the program, because you were quite shocked, Mr. Badbit. I gotta go to you next on this, because obviously, you know, both of us, you specifically have a PlayStation channel. I talk about PlayStation in a positive manner because I like their games. Like, I am looking forward to Ratchet and Clank. I am an old G kind of a gamer who understands and loves platformers. I love Ratchet and Clank. I could not when I found out that they were making a sequel, I was through the roof excited because the first one, if you look at it, looks like a Pixar movie of a game that you're playing. That's how well it was done. And now we're going to see some good power of the PlayStation 5 with this running this game. My question to you is, I know that we're going to be getting some big Halo stuff, but does Microsoft need to, quote unquote, respond to these two huge 14-minute vertical slices that we saw in Ratchet and Clank and Horizon Forbidden West during E3 to say, hey, our first party games look as good, potentially even better?
No, I don't. I agree with I agree with VJ here, right? Like, they go, both companies go tit for tat. What's that?
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's what you do, man. You know, I think they go tit for tat in different ways. I think Xbox does it in a more sly way with their social media presence when things go a little haywire on PlayStation Land. That said, what Xbox needs to do, and what they have been doing for the past year, is just being different, being them, setting up their brand and what their mission statement is, right? If their mission statement is, hey, let's just do what PlayStation's doing and better, that's not a good mission statement. Their mission statement really is bringing games, the best experiences, to the most gamers possible, right? So what do you do? What needs to be done? You know, taking a look at Microsoft, I think the only thing that they have left to improve, and I think when you say tit for tat, I think what you're meaning is, like, how do they showcase these games the way PlayStation does, in the ways of, like, look, Horizon is a new franchise that had just one game in its catalog, and in less than 3 hours, that was the most popular state of play for a game ever. Like 10 million views in less than a week.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's super freaking impressive. Yeah, that's really awesome. And I think if you're an Xbox fan, you're like, okay, so how can we do this for the Chief? Because last year we saw people are thirsty for Chief, right? Like, we're getting excited again. We saw Halo social media wise pull numbers that it hasn't done in such a long time. And then with the kerfuffle that was that trailer, like, how do we showcase Halo the way that a Sony presentation does? And I think that's what people, whether you say it outwardly or not, that's what people really want, because they want that 10 million plus eyes on that product. They really do. I want that as well. So I don't think going tit for tat, going, okay, so PlayStation has an Uncharted game, we need an Uncharted game. PlayStation has a furry little critter, we need a furry little critter on our time. It's not that. It's bringing out the creativity of these teams and making the brand synonymous with them. Right. Mm-hmm. So I think bringing Bethesda along for the ride makes so much sense. It's something I've been saying for a long time now. It's like, yeah, when you see it on the offset, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. They've been buddies for a while. That catalog of games just bleeds so well into what the culture of Xbox is wanting to be. It's its own thing, right? Like, Nintendo has these platformers, these family-like games. PlayStation has the action open world. Microsoft has the multiplayer and first-person RPG. These are all unique. And that's what I really want from Microsoft, is being unique and setting out what your brand is about, more so than just you can play anywhere, but what does your catalog speak? What does your catalog say? Mm-hmm. And I don't think going tit for tat, going, okay, so Ratchet and Crank is a furry little mascot. Can we get a furry little mascot, guys? Yes. Yeah, bring out the guy with the telekinesis. Yeah, that'll do. Like, I don't think that's the way to do it. Of course, you can broaden out the portfolio and have family-friendly things.
Like, I don't know, maybe bringing back Banjo-Kazooie. I don't know.
Exactly, bringing back Banjo. And you're totally right. But like that wouldn't have to necessarily be I wouldn't think that game is a answer to Ratchet, right? Because it's just such a unique experience.
It's its own thing. Yes,
it's its own thing. It's its own entity. So that's what I want. When I see Microsoft with Bethesda in that announcement and closing this deal, it's about really, for the first time, I feel like Microsoft setting its foot in the sand, or they're drawing a line in the sand, going, "This is who we are. This is what our brand is. This is what our IP speaks."
Yeah.
And that's super exciting if you're a Microsoft fan, PlayStation fan, whoever, because now it is not just a Forza Gears Halo. It is this entity, this idea, this mission statement of like, this is what our portfolio is, and it's broad and expansive. And that's awesome. So to me, it's not about going tit for tat. To me, it's about making it known what your portfolio is all about. And that's what they got to do at E3, and how they showcase those games. That's going to be the most important thing, is really going, okay, so this is how we sell our games, like a PlayStation or like a Nintendo or whatever. And remember, gang, this takes time. It takes time to do this. Seeing Microsoft and where its fresh start is, that took years to get to that point, right? PlayStation with the PS3 era, we remember the PS4 fondly, still do, for at least the next year or two, but like, we remember it fondly for all these killer IP, but remember, it took a whole entire generation to get them there.
Yeah,
so
no, that's a great point.
Understand, things take time. It's going to take time for them to perfect the message, and I don't expect it to be perfect. I'm expecting, though, to know what it means to be in that Microsoft family.
Yeah,
that's it.
I mean, listen, I could not have asked for a better way to describe it, dude. You completely knocked it out of the park. I actually feel bad for N64 Josh to have to follow that up. Archimedes, we're going to get to you in a second. But before we do, let me catch up with some of the super chats and the new channel members. Texas East Texas, Alex, good friend of the show. He drops not only, well, it's not actually a super chat, he's a channel member. That's right. And failed Pyromancer. Listen, I got to say something about this dude. Last week, someone posing as this man, I was so upset because it was so out of character for him that I blocked him on Twitter. Thankfully, Archimedes got involved. A few people said, hey, listen, boom. I don't know if that was the right guy. Even the sheriff, Lethal Papa, reached out to me and says, yeah, that doesn't seem like him. I think it was a fake account. Turns out it was. Of course, this is my public apology. Failed Pyromancer and I have maybe not agreed on everything, but he's certainly a channel supporter. So obviously he's back in the good graces of me, and I'm obviously in the good graces of him. And there is actually someone posing as this man on social media.
We gotta find out.
I gotta be honest with you. I told him privately, yeah, this is something you gotta, get the securities involved in, because that's not good. That's definitely not good
right now.
Oh, for 100%.
There's a lot of it going on.
Yeah, it's if you do that, man, you really need to speak to somebody.
I'm a little insulted. No one's done it for me yet.
I'm happy no one's done it for you. Be happy. Hold on a second. We had a couple super chats come in. Lord Roughness, good friend and generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Says, hi, Boom. Those Sony games mentioned looked great, but in my opinion, Xbox generating so much excitement and promise, and I'm looking forward to Game Pass goodness. Yeah, and I think that, again, I've said this before, the exclusive, quote unquote, is Xbox Game Pass, and they are using it to their advantage. We've seen that. Drawn TJ drops an additional $5 super chat. Oh, this would be dope. A Destiny Halo crossover? Yes, please. Because yeah, that would be bringing Bungie and 343 together to make something. Listen, at this point, I would love to see just a Master Chief armor show up in Destiny. Will it ever happen? Who knows? But that is kind of dope. I definitely like that idea. But Josh, I got to get your opinion on this. What are your thoughts on this topic? I mean, you've already heard two incredible back-to-back opinions. Do you feel that there is a quote unquote urgency level that Microsoft is currently at to respond to something like a Ratchet and Clank that's releasing 2 days before their event, and the recent 14-minute vertical slice of one of my personal most anticipated games, Horizon Forbidden West?
I don't think so. I think Xbox has been building a foundation for quite a few years now, right? And I feel like they're about to wake the sleeping giant. That's what I think E3 is going to be.
I like what you're putting down there, sir.
Yeah. So I love what Mr. Babbitt was saying. It does feel like Xbox needs an identity, right? Game Pass is becoming that identity, right? Like you can't even really talk about Xbox without thinking about Game Pass. Nintendo has, their Mario games, they have Zelda, they have their killer IPs. Sony has the same thing. Gears has always been great. Halo has had its ups and downs, but for some reason I just don't feel like I don't think Gears gets the kind of love that like The Last of Us or God of War, those are absolutely stellar titles.
Listen, I still think that I'm not saying, I'm not going to bring this back to 2019, but I have to agree with you on Gears 5. That is one of the most under discussed titles that Xbox has released. I mean, we just saw, as good as the DLC looked, Gears 5 looked just as good, potentially even better, right? And it's almost terrible that game, just because it's another Gears, that they did not get the respect that it deserved. I agree with you 100%.
And I think that's the battle Xbox is fighting, right? They have to, and I think the way they showcased a new Fable, the way they showcased the Perfect Dark, I feel like it is the beginning of a new and possibly even more mature Xbox. That it's like it's no longer just resting on what was once success, but is now realizing that they need to they really need to create these IPs that are Game of the Year contenders and that really get people talking and really get people excited. And so the immediate response to what Sony has done, Sony has built that platform and is now able to just, hey, here are these 14-minute vertical slices. Here are the games that the new IPs that you're from the studios that you love. Xbox is getting there. The purchase of Bethesda kind of locked that in, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we are continuing to see I love Xbox in this place because as the gamers, we win. They are going to continue to fight. They are going to continue to get the attention, and there's just so much momentum building right now that this year, next year, 5 years from now, it's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, I think there are a lot of people in the chat and on this panel that support multiple platforms, so we're not stuck choosing one per se. So I always think we're always going to be winners because we're going to have the ability to say, yeah, I can play Halo Infinite on a Tuesday, and I can then go, 3 weeks later when God of War releases for the PlayStation 5, go get that and enjoy it just the same, or potentially more, depending on where your love for first person shooters goes versus over the shoulder third person adventures. So I'm always going to win, and I agree with you there. Archimedes, I got to get your opinion. I saved you for last simply because I think yours is going to be the most detailed. I think you're even going to rival VJ on this. Where do you fall with this? Like, because we have talked privately, and you're kind of like me. The wait for next E3, that is something I've said publicly. I don't want to effing hear. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Well, we had 3 titles that we're really excited about, and I pulled it. Don't do that. Let it hang out, man. Porn is all over the place, right? So, one doesn't work with the other. But Archimedes, What are your thoughts on this? Do you agree with me that you feel Microsoft has to respond, or am I overanalyzing this?
First of all, nobody can top VJ here, so but I'll definitely give my thoughts. The thing about Microsoft's way to present games is that they kind of don't get the same hype going as Sony did. And there are mainly 2 reasons for that. The first is Microsoft has a lot more to prove. If Microsoft and Sony were just both showing off CGI trailers, everyone would still be a little bit more excited for Sony, because they simply have a better track record in releasing first-party games, quality games, Game of the Year contenders. That is what Microsoft has yet to prove. The second thing is that Phil has spoken about this a lot. They kind of think they have shown games too early in the past. I always wonder why Microsoft thinks that. I can only think of one example, and that was Scalebound, where that happened. That they showed a game early, and then stuff happened and they had to cancel it. I get that, but that was one game. That wasn't even a first-party game. And
I think of like Fable and like Phantom Dust. That's what I'm thinking.
I'll take Phantom Dust out of the discussion because that game released. Yeah,
I mean, trash. My apologies.
But you're right. Fable would be a second example. Those are kind of things that are in the past. Those are things that
was also a very differently run Microsoft.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I wanted to say. Yeah. It was a different Microsoft back in those days. It would show me a lot more confidence that they have the guts to come out and say, okay, listen, 2 years from now, you will get Fable, and this is how it looks. That shows confidence to me. It shows way more confidence than to come out, here's a CGI trailer, we are working on that game. And I think this confidence is something that Microsoft kind of needs to show to the community, because and now I'm getting back to my first point. They have yet to prove themselves that they can be on par with PlayStation and releasing like 2, 3, 4 major games each year that have that AAA appeal, that are possible Game of the Year contenders. I personally have no doubt that these are coming, because I just look at the track record of the individual studios. Outside of the initiative, all of those studios have a fantastic track record, and we know that Microsoft is letting the studios do what they do best, and are not getting involved like they did, boom, like you said, in the earlier days of Microsoft. Yeah, that's definitely something that changed. But this is something that I just believe. Yeah, it is nothing proven. It is nothing that is out there for the, like Vijay said, for the general consumer, the mass market. Microsoft has to prove that, and they kind of need to learn how to generate hype. I'm right there with Joe. I don't want Microsoft to copy Sony in the way what kind of games they do, but that doesn't mean that both companies can learn from each other. We just had on social media the whole discussion about, honesty in communication. I think Microsoft is doing a significantly better job than Sony is. This is something Sony should definitely copy from Microsoft. Be more open and transparent and honest to your customers. But that doesn't mean that Microsoft cannot learn something from Sony. And I think I've said this before on the show, that the one thing that Sony does so well is to lay out their roadmap. They show smaller or bigger chunks of gameplay for games that are probably a year out and maybe 2. And yes, stuff can happen. We had this discussion with Spider-Man. I remember the Puddlegate, yeah. But if you have a good product on your hand, you kind of withstand these discussions, because you will have the hardcore trolls out there anyway, no matter what you do, whether you show Fable this year, next year, or only 1 month before it'll release. Yeah, you will have someone out there that finds a reason to make a meme and make fun about it. This is happening anyway. So show confidence. Give us those vertical slices that Sony does so well, because nothing gets the community and gamers more excited than just to see 2 minutes of Hellblade in action. And coming back to VJ's point, and with that I'm going to finish, the way how marketing these days works is you kind of need to grasp the casual gamer, and it is mostly done through smaller advertisements, maybe TV or even social media, which is kind of the bigger deal right now. You scroll through your timeline on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, wherever, yeah, and then you see that 10-second trailer, that the 10-second advertisement, and if you see just a logo and a CGI figure, that's kind of different than when you see 10 seconds how Senua is moving in a world. That is just different. And this is what Microsoft needs. They need that push. And I've said that before, Halo alone is not going to do that. As excited as I am for Halo, and I really am, it's not going to do it if they just show Halo. They kind of need to show 3 to 5 other major AAA games outside of Halo, with like 3 to 5 to 10 minutes of gameplay. This is just what Microsoft needs, and if they can pull that off, they're going to have a fantastic E3.
Yeah, I absolutely
got a
agree.
question.
Yeah, jump in
I
there,
have a
Joe.
question. What if, because we talked a little bit about it before the show, of like, I think this is a smaller E3 than I think this is going to be the smallest E3 since last year.
I think you're onto something with that, Joe. I absolutely
think this
do.
summer, like all these games, it's really about like what's imminent, because they don't they really, none of them have anything over the horizon, right? What if God forbid, whatever deity belonged to forbid, what if this Microsoft show isn't, what if it's another wait till next E3?
I've had too many of those E3s from Microsoft. To be honest, starting from 2018 on, we kind of had always those E3s, where it's we were told to, and next year, and then last year we didn't have an E3, but we had the showcase, and not that the showcase last year was bad by any means. I mean, if you can introduce like 7-8 major AAA games, what they have announced. Yeah, they have announced State of Decay 3. They have announced Hellblade. That wasn't there.
They had Fable there.
Fable,
they
Avowed,
had
Forza.
They had a lot, dude.
They had a lot. It was a great showing, but it was all just announcements. It was just announcements, nothing more. And this is... I've had that discussion on a podcast yesterday as well. Shout out to the Midweek Mix-Up podcast. But I don't want to temper my expectations anymore. I just don't want that. It's time that Microsoft gives the fans something to really be excited about. I don't want to play that waiting game anymore. However, Joe, I do agree with you that the E3 in general will be smaller than... or probably the smallest E3 that we ever had. I don't expect any big things coming from any of the other publishers. But with Microsoft and maybe Nintendo, I kind of think they need to bring their A game. It's not. I'm not sure if the community will give Microsoft that goodwill that they do right now for another year without them showing games outside of Halo. It's been too long, and we have had too many E3s in the past and shows.
It's a shame you say that, because I think if there's an E3 where we give some folks some credit, I do think it's this one, because it's a really, nobody expected it to last this long, which is kind of like looking at it as airplane view. It's like, yeah, of course it is, and most of the world is not back to normal, so of course this is still going to be a thing that's prevalent even into next year. So like for me, it's just like if I have no inside information, I'm not anyone that claims I do, but like if it does, I'm like, okay, that's fine, because that's what I'm expecting from everyone. Like I'm expecting it from Nintendo, I'm expecting it from PlayStation, of like, yeah, this is, I think we underestimate, and I think it's because this industry is so secretive, how much of an impact the global panorama has really had on these teams. I heard Danny from NoClip describe it, and he's just like, if you're a game that was just either starting or you're in your last third of development, and you would think the last half would be the easiest half, your game is probably delayed about 6 to 8 months at best, upwards to a year plus, because you are balancing all this information, and you're contacting main servers to put your work in, and then you got to rework it, and you got to do meetings from this. It's just it's a lot for these teams to even try to balance. And so like I do give, if and when, and again, I don't think any of them are going to disappoint me, because my expectations, I believe, are set that like it's going to be a smaller show. I think I'm mostly going to see Halo. And if I see anything else, I'm just going to be really happy, because I totally know this thing is really messing up the workflow for a lot of people. So it sucks that that's the feeling of like, no, it has to be this one, because if else, what's going on? Because I do think if this was any other year, and like, let's just say, again, we're all playing with things that may happen, may totally be awesome. But like, if this was any other year and it was like a mech showing, sure, I would totally be like, come on, guys, you had so long to do this. But with the global situation at hand, I kind of do give all of them the benefit of the doubt this time around.
I understand where you're coming from, and I have no doubt that COVID caused probably a year to almost every game out there. Maybe there are some smaller games for smaller teams. It's easier to align. It's easier to align a three-man team when working from home than a 300-man team. Yeah, so no doubt, COVID had its impact. I'm not talking about Microsoft needs to release this year like 5 big bangers. I'm not saying that. I'm saying they had time now, and yes, I know the pandemic is going on, but they had time to adjust, and I'm just talking about present your game, lay out the roadmap, and that is something that is doable while working from home. I've been working from home for 15, 16 months now. I'm also an engineer and work in develop products that are just as complex, if not more complex, than video games. I work in the automotive industry. I know how difficult it is. But every developer had time to find ways to make things work. Things are still slower than they used to be, no doubt. And that's why I'm not saying and put a pressure on any of those developers to release the games. Take their time, if possible. If your funding allows it, take the time and delay your games. No, I think most of the community is aware of that, and they are willing to wait, but they kind of want to know what they are waiting for. And that is a difference. And this showing stuff thing is something you can do while you work from home. And it's just a matter of, are you willing to take the risk to show something right now and release the game in a year or two? And maybe things will change. You will have to either downgrade or upgrade or change an art style or something like that, or gameplay mechanics, whatever you show now. Of course, the game is still in development. But other developers do that. They show games earlier. Especially Sony has done that in the past. Like show a gameplay 1 year, 1.5 years in advance. And that's kind of what Microsoft can do now as well.
They're good at selling hope. They sell hope to their community. They're the master. And you can call them master manipulators. You can call them masters of, well, not unlocking, but certainly the masters of marketing. At least that's where Sony falls for me, because they understand how to get the fan base excited. And we've been saying this for a while. I've said this. I've had people actually tell me, well, boom, we don't want Microsoft to be Sony. I'm not suggesting that they should. They should be Microsoft. But at the same point, to Archimedes' point, there has to be a freaking point where you're like, listen, we have some great first-party games that are what the people have been asking, and we're going to show you. I'm not saying that I want a 15-minute vertical slice in a show that's only 45 minutes in length for them. No, I'm suggesting that they give us. Listen, look. Ninja Theory is one of my favorite developers that they have as first party. I understand that mocap has hurt them. They're one of like many of Sony's studios. They use mocap unbelievably for Sanua and what this game is going to be. But I got to be honest with you folks. When I started hearing some rumblings that, well, we're not going to get any kind of gameplay on a game that you showed 2019. Now we're in 2021. I got to be honest with you. I think they could have put a 3 to 4 minute trailer of her cutting someone's head off or something. Again, I'm not a developer, so what do I know? But I'm just saying that there could be, sell us hope. Again, I'm a diehard Xbox fan, right? I'm already invested. It's my favorite platform, but I don't know. VJ, do you want to jump in with this?
I was just going to say, in relation to one of, I think your points are absolutely valid, Boom, because loads and loads of studios are producing gameplay, and from all dozens of studios. But just in relation to why Sony's IPs are more revered or popular than Xbox's IPs, Sony and Nintendo were just able to cast a larger net in terms of hardware sold out there, right, than the Xbox did. If you cast a bigger net, you're just typically going to haul in a bigger catch, or it culminates in a larger audience. And it's just a matter of fact that a larger audience or numbers of consumers begets more written and spoken traffic and awareness. It's just simple mathematics. This time around, Sony are perhaps still casting a net that will yield them another 100 million units, while Xbox, with Game Pass, have said, you know what, this time around, we're going to cast a net which can potentially catch 2 billion players. So what does that mean or equate to? Xbox IP, potentially, if conceived well, will be far more talked about and perhaps held in higher esteem or in parallel to those of its other platform competitors. And that's your marketing right there.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this has been a fantastic a subject to talk about. Everyone has very valid points. I love how Joe came in and really dropped a lot of logic on it. I love everyone's opinions. It's very, very big opinions, at least for me. And I'm happy the way this topic turned out. But I got to get on to the last one. This one's a big one as well. Reggie Mobile 9, good and generous friend of the show, he drops an outstanding $15 super chat and says this. Great show, Boom, with another stellar panel. Well, thank you, my friend. Xbox needs to just focus on releasing great games and not one using Sony. Winning on Twitter isn't the goal. Best value machine and upcoming IPs in gaming. I mean, I agree with you there. I think I definitely onto something with that. Again, I don't want them to become a Sony. I don't want Sony to become Microsoft. I want them to continue to both do their own thing. But I think it's time for Microsoft to really let us know what is going on with gameplay. I think, listen, again, I'm not going to beat the horse here, but I want to see gameplay. I think now is the time. But I do want to move on. But before I actually do, Got a big shout out to Dinero Primero in the chat. If you've noticed, all of the new emojis that are being that you can use as a channel member were designed by him, and they're incredible. One of which, of course, is Senua screaming, which is one of my favorites. He designed them all. Big. If you're a small YouTuber, a big YouTuber, someone looking for a gamer pick, someone looking for an identity on social media, you got to reach out to Dinero Primero. His artwork is just the best in the business, and I highly recommend him. If you want the information on him, just check out the show notes of any of my shows. All of his information is there for you to acquire his services. Very affordable on top of that. But let's move on to the last topic of the show, and this is again one of the big ones. Now, one of the biggest admissions for me is that I've been focused on what new IPs, game trailers, and 2021 announcements Microsoft will be bringing to the big show on June 13th. Though I have not really given any thought to what God Howard and Pete Hines will unveil of the second half of the Xbox Bethesda event. Now, I've already talked about, and Boxenberger has already discussed how we both believe Wolfenstein 3 is going to be announced, and it's going to release this year. I have a real strong, both of us have strong opinions about that. And besides Starfield being, a big part of this show, the question comes to what other new games we might see. Now, look, I'm going to be honest with you. This is a game that has not seen a new release since 2017. And I think it's time to bring this franchise back. And I'm talking about Quake. I think a new Quake would really excite the gamers both on PC and Xbox. And I would love to see not a Quake, just a Quake Champions type of deal where it's multiplayer only. I would love to see, a Doom-esque rebirth of Quake with a strong story and just as much gore. But I'm gonna pose this question to the chat as well as to the panel, and I'll start with Boxenberger. What do you expect to see from Bethesda? Do you think they have anything up their sleeves?
They definitely have something up their sleeves. See, they usually had their own E3 conference, and you don't show up to an E3 conference with just one game. So you gotta have a few things to show. As much as I would love to see a Quake return, and like you said, a kind of a reboot of the series in the vein of Doom, I don't think that's the time yet that they do that. I think their big secret, besides Starfield, I have no doubt that they show up with Starfield. Besides Starfield, I think they will show off that game Omen from Arcane, which is supposed to be a game with vampires.
Yeah. A lot of people are suggesting that it could be a Legacy of Kain reboot, which would be freaking dope, because I believe Interplay owned that IP. But man, would that be? I mean, I've actually Pong Soul, who's in the chat, actually brought that up. I don't want to steal his credit for that, but could you imagine if it is a new Legacy of Kain? Holy cow, that would bring down the house.
Would be definitely something. I haven't thought about it this way. For me, it was a brand new IP, something new. But the Arcane games always have always something special to them. Yeah, those are not the average games. They have always unique gameplay elements, unique design elements. I love them. And so yeah, that is probably the secret. I do hope we get a reboot of Quake though. And I mean, Bethesda has one of the most powerful engines in the world, with the id Tech engine, and the id Tech 7 engine was only used in one single game so far, and that was Doom Eternal. So I bet we will see that in Wolfenstein, that engine. But can you imagine a Quake reboot in id Tech 7? That would be just awesome.
It would be ridiculous. Yeah, I would be very excited to see that. Joe, let's go to you. Again, we've all been talking about Microsoft. And of course, we want to see what they have from first party, but also, and again, it's still hard to fathom Bethesda's first party. Like, it's even still to this day unbelievable to think about. What do you think they're bringing to the table? Because obviously, I think the Wolfenstein that's an easy pick. Like, I honestly believe that's an easy pick, and for reasons that Boxenberger brought up, that's been development the longest it's ever been. So that could be a potential release. Starfield, we know, is going to be there. For crying out loud, it was in the advertising artwork on the bottom. The planet, it was Starfield. So we're going to get that in a big way. What else do you think they're bringing to the table?
Let's see. Starfield, I think, is a must, of course. Machine games, yeah, it's been a while since we've gotten Wolfenstein. It's going to be interesting because Bethesda can't show Ghostwire, or they can't show Deathloop yet. Right. So like those two are out of the question. But and that's what makes it really, really hard for me, because, like, sure, I think we're going to see maybe some more, because Bethesda last year did more mobile stuff. ESO, maybe tease whatever they apparently, like, there's also like a Fallout MMO in the works. Rumor has it that's been a rumor for a bit, but maybe
they kind of have that already, right?
Exactly. I'm like, well, maybe with 76 you don't pull it, but yeah, I don't know. They're a blank canvas to me, and it's really because when it comes to Bethesda, I'm really just into Doom, Wolfenstein, and like Elder Scrolls. So like I'm a pretty blank canvas when it comes to them. I think what they need to also show and they're so good at is the culture of Bethesda not changing. I think that's something that's really important to make sure that people are aware of. Not so much to the Xbox fans, because we believe it, right? But more so of like the Bethesda fans out there. They may feel a certain way. Again, when we see big acquisitions, and if you're a PC person, you think of Activision Blizzard, and Activision going, oh, no, Blizzard's gonna be fine, and them not being fine a few years out. So I think that's another thing. They got to build reassurance with their fans and their audience of what it's going to mean for them in the coming years. And I think Bethesda does such a great job at doing that. And it's not going to be much of an issue for them. But in terms of what I want to see, I really want to see Starfield. I saw like some comments of like Starfield 0 FPS on the PS5. I'm like, what a stupid tweet, because it's just like, we don't know what that game is. It's just an image.
We I mean, listen, we have an inkling of what the game is going to be. It's gonna be a space RPG. We just don't know more than that.
Yeah,
we know it's single player. That's the second thing we know.
Oh, and it's single player, cool. Yeah, and like that's about it. So like, I want to see what this game is, because I think with the absence of, Mass Effect, I think we all want something. And something literally different from Bethesda. I don't want this to be just like Fallout in space or Skyrim with astronauts. I want it to be something really refreshing and letting that team kind of exercise what they want to see. But I also don't think we're going to see much of it if it's a late 2022 game. But again, I'm excited for the future of Bethesda with Microsoft. Don't get mistaken with that. I just don't know what they're going to show. It's a mystery, since so many of their studios are working on things that they really can't talk about on an Xbox stage.
Yeah, no, and that's the truth. I mean, I think one of the things that I find more exciting about the fact that it's digital, it's a controlled event, right? There can't be no mistakes made. Like, the computer isn't going to melt into a puddle. You know what I'm saying? This is a show that they probably already have pre-taped. Only a handful of people know. I think that's for a lot of these, third party, and even like Sony's going to do what Sony does. Nintendo's going to do a Treehouse event. That's going to be pre-taped, and I think that this is going to be pre-recorded as well. And we're going to see it handled in a great way. At this point, we just have to sit back and figure out what they're going to bring to the table. N64, Josh, let's grab your opinion on this, brother. I think that the dark horse or the enigma, if you will, is Bethesda, because, like I said, everyone is just focused on Starfield, and for good reason, right? It's God Howard's first new IP in a decade. It's something he has really wanted to do. We know that it is going to be an Xbox exclusive. We know that it is going to be an RPG in space. But what else are you expecting from Bethesda?
I'm not expecting a whole lot, honestly. Like, because of Starfield having, we know, we've seen a picture, right?
Yeah.
Like 2018, there was like, what, just screenshots or something, like the tiny little, the short little teaser. Like, they could fill up a large portion of their show just showing us that game. Now, if Quake gets some kind of reboot, I'm all about it.
Yes,
but
sir.
I don't know, and I can't remember if we talked about it here. I've been talking so much Xbox all over the place, I can't even remember where some of the conversations took place. But I think there's a very real possibility for like a Quake BR or something along those lines, where Quake becomes a free-to-play kind of game with the Quake style gameplay. I mean, Quake has always been. I mean, they're one of the, when you think early multiplayer first-person shooters, Quake is in that group, and so to see it come back in some capacity, I would love it. I really liked Quake 4 a lot. I remember playing it quite a bit on the 360.
Yeah,
and so
I quite enjoyed it as well. Yep.
To see it come back in some capacity, I think would be great. I mean, the every time I mention any kind of BR, I usually have somebody in my chat is like, "Oh, so you want another battle pass?" Right? And that's really what it boils down to, is that we're just going to end up with all these games with battle passes, and it can be a little overwhelming as well. So I'm assuming we might see something from the mobile game department. Maybe we'll see Blades get the 4K 120,
treatment.
It's possible.
Yes, let's do it.
That was a joke. That was a joke. Hopefully we don't hear anything about Blades ever again. Yeah, so but there could also be something like, there could be something up their sleeve, which made the purchase very, very appealing to Microsoft for this show, more than just Starfield. There very well could be something that is that we don't know about, and it could be very exciting.
You know what's so cool about Bethesda? I think they started with Fallout 4. Was it's like they could just drop something and be out this holiday,
Yeah.
Like they're that type of company. Like we had no idea, and they just like dropped, and it's 6 months away, and we're like, bravo, Bethesda, we love you.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly going to be interesting to see what they bring to the table. But VJ, let's get your final opinion, and we'll get everyone out of here. Again, I still think that a lot of people, including myself, have focused solely on what Xbox is going to bring for a lot of reasons, and a lot of good reasons. But with that said, Bethesda is Xbox. Xbox is Bethesda. What do you expect for them and their E3 presence?
I'm going to disappoint you, Boom. Look, I can't really see much past Starfield, Boom. I'm so enamored with it. I'm not exactly a Quake or Wolfenstein sort of gamer these days. Or in this particular moment, I should say. I'm very much focused on new IPs and news updates and contents related to said new IP. And Starfield should be at E3, and perhaps even Wolfenstein or Indiana Jones or some of the other games that have been mentioned by Josh, Mr. Badbit, and Archimedes. And they're all good calls, right? So, and they're all educated calls, I should say. However, Starfield is the main game, perhaps even ahead of Halo in terms of anticipated game or / new IP. And I remember watching Todd once Riley or satirically said, and I may have misconceived it, he's surprised people are excited for a game that no one's seen. And I would say, Todd, in case you're unaware, it comes from a place of respect and in recognition of your past games and what they in fact commercially and critically achieved, especially in relation to Xbox and why they went for them. So of course there will be a genuine anticipation from consumers that appreciate you in terms of Todd and what his teams have achieved, on a fairly consistent basis over an extensive period of time. And I talk about that a lot because that's been the one thing that's been missing from Xbox, right? And now they have it in spades, and not just in one studio, but under the umbrella of Bethesda, several studios that can hold up, right? In that regard, and to reinforce the excitement. Why are we excited about Starfield? Well, there's just that small little fact, right, that people sometimes forget, that Microsoft paid $7.5 billion to buy out ZeniMax shareholders, and there's no smoke without fire, as people say, right? So for me, it's all about Starfield and how it's introduced and ensuring it, relatively speaking, obviously given where they are during their course of development with everything that's gone and happened over the past year or so, holds up. And given the pedigree behind the project and how much Phil believes in Todd and the money that's been spent, even though that's probably a side issue for Microsoft, and again, how much Phil believes in Todd and Bethesda as a whole. I'm not saying there won't be anything else. I'm just not educated enough to see past what everybody else has already said. Again, boom, I come back to what I said in my previous comment. It's all about the quality over quantity. Just bring Starfield, because for me, that's your synergy with E3. That's your synergy with Xbox and Game Pass. That's your synergy with consumers. That's your competitive edge today. And you're ultimately, I think it's the USP or unique selling point for Xbox and Game Pass to help aid and execute Phil's vision and ultimately contributing as a whole to Microsoft's agenda, right? And the reason why I'm focused on Starfield, because I was thinking about this the other day, it only takes one game, boom. If you ask most PlayStation fans, the one thing that is at the top of the list when you ask them, what do you recall back from E3 2018? And maybe we can test the theory out on Mr. Badbit. He'll probably give us a wrong answer anyway. 2018, it's pretty much God of War, right? One game, one show. That's all Microsoft need to do, right? Anything else other than Starfield as the all new all conquering IP, and I'm a Mass Effect fan, I'm huge, and I share Mr. Badbit's sentiment wholeheartedly, begrudgingly so, is welcome. But pretty much anything else, boom, is going to be an hors d'oeuvre, right, at this point, in comparison to sort of like, I don't know, a fully fledged banquet, right, on the royal grounds of Buck House back in West London. And in case I've lost you, I am drawing parallels between Starfield and a royal banquet at Buckingham Palace. But it's probably a really good time now, probably to hand back the reins of the show to you, Boom.
No. I mean, listen, everyone has their unique way of speaking, and certainly you do as well. And I definitely agree with you. I think that Starfield is important for Bethesda. I think more so it's important to Todd Howard because it's his baby. It's something he has been wanting to do. He's talked about it passionately, and it's we're finally going to get a chance to see what it looks like. So yeah, I mean, do they show 20 minutes of Starfield in a 45-minute presentation? I would actually be okay with that, because they could still show us a Wolfenstein trailer. They could show us a teaser trailer for the potential relaunch of Legacy of Kain. That would be freaking crazy, and they could add a few more little things in there. It's going to be a great show either way. Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it, though.
Absolutely.
So, real quick, let me just catch up some of the super chats and we'll get everyone out of here. Annan in the chat drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, OG Xbox back compat is lacking. Not playing many classics. I mean, listen, I hear what you're saying. I mean, the fact that we can play any of those games is actually still shocking to me, to be honest with you. But again, reach out to the team on Twitter, social media. Tell them what games you want. I've quite enjoyed what I've played with the OG Xbox. I know there's some that are missing, but reach out to them on social media and maybe give them a list of games that you want to see on there. Drawn TJ, wow, dude, he drops a very generous $20 super chat says, "Hi, Boom. Love your podcast. It's the best in my opinion." Well, thank you, dude. That is awesome. He says, "Do you think that Bungie comes back to Xbox now since Phil Spencer is in charge? You should check out Section 8 Prejudice. And do you think do you think it should come back as a hidden gem?" Oh man, you know what, dude? I don't know. I mean, look, we had heard early talk that potentially Microsoft was going to buy Bungie, and then they came out and said no, we're not for sale. And they look, the head of Bungie and Phil are good friends. They play Destiny together. There is something there. I don't necessarily know if they want to be owned. I mean, who's to know? But listen, folks, this has been great. We had over 400 people here, almost the entire show. If you were new, of course, I want to say welcome. Next week is going to be another big content week, but the week of E3, I am looking to do probably 6 or 7 live shows in a matter of 5 days. We're going to be doing live shows almost every day. I am considering cutting out moving the Xbox Tuesday show, because Pong is not going to be with us because he has work, and Mav is going to be with us. But I'm considering that we might cover the Nintendo conference that goes live at that exact time, because obviously I'm a Nintendo fan, so I want to cover that. We'll be covering that live, and of course all of the other coverage. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't mind holding off on one Xbox show, keeping the Thursday and covering the Nintendo Treehouse event, which I think is going to be about 40 minutes. So I'm still putting things together, but of course let's get to the outros. And Josh, we'll start with you first, because you are going to be doing a lot, especially on your Twitch channel. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, check out the work you're doing on YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah, I'm kind of everywhere. So N64 Josh is mostly Nintendo content everywhere. I mean, that includes TikTok, that includes Instagram, Facebook, everything. I do stream. The streaming is cut back quite a bit over the last month on Twitch, but I will be covering. And I mean, Boom, we're kind of talking about it. We may end up just doing it. I may just join you for the Nintendo stuff, because it's Nintendo and it's what I love. So,
and we could get some big announcements. I mean, I mean, we keep hearing that the Nintendo Switch Pro is days away from being announced. I mean, that could be one of those announcements.
Yeah, and so that could be a lot of fun. So we'll talk more. But I imagine I may be knocking at your door saying, "Hey, let's do something." So.
Absolutely.
But guys, the Xbox Now channel is a baby channel. It just started. And I need help. I need subs. I need views. Like, I want to get this thing. I want to get this thing going. And so if you want another Xbox podcast, we're doing it weekly, Wednesdays at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And it's just about a half-hour show. We're trying to pick like 3 topics and giving them about 10 minutes each. So it's kind of a bite-sized podcast.
Oh, I like that. That's good. That's cool.
Compared to this, but and we'll be doing a lot of coverage of E3 and things to come. So
nice. We're definitely looking forward to seeing with it. And again, Josh, we'll keep in touch. Again, I'd love to collaborate once again. And obviously, that's going to be everyone that's anyone is going to be doing something. And obviously, it's going to be a great time to be a gamer. Joe, let's go to you, brother.
Yeah,
you've been doing some great stuff. First of all, I got to tell people about the merch that you had put up there. Mrs. Boomstick and I, we talked privately. We're a total of good for 3 shirts. I tell people about what you're doing with that project, because I think it's important, specifically because it's Pride Month, folks. And Mrs. Boomstick and I, huge supporters of the Pride community. We have many friends that we support that are openly gay. And I think that, Joe, what you're doing, Mrs. Boomstick loved the designs. Who the heck did those? And tell everyone about where they can check that out. And more importantly, where can people check out the trophy room?
So yeah, we're doing this really, and when we've already raised upwards of $300 on just the first day alone, which is absolutely fantastic. And so thank you as well, Boom. But yeah, like a lot of my friends as well are part of that rainbow coalition of folks. And you know, it's hard growing up, you know, whether you're in the closet or out, you know, being a kid that is openly you know, so what we wanted to do was we wanted to give back to a charity that's doing something amazing. So we have Pride Line over at PS Trophy Room. There's a link, should be one of the first tweets you see. Click the link, buy a shirt. It goes to the Trevor Project, which their mission statement is they are the leading national organization providing crisis management for LGBTQ young people under the age of 25. They have a suicide prevention hotline that they that youth can call if they're under duress, and it's a really great organization that helps also educate people on LGBTQ issues. And so that's something that means a whole lot to me, because pretty much most of my friends are, you know, gay or queer folks. So it really does mean a lot to me. It's just the way I should try to give back. And you can follow the Trophy Room over at PS Trophy Room on Twitter. You can follow the show on Apple Podcasts. This is the last week. You give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and you get a chance to win Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart or an equivalent. So if you're an Xbox folks out there, because I know a lot of Xbox folks listen to our podcast, which we appreciate, we'll give you the equivalent of Game Pass or something, whatever you want. We'll do it for you. And yeah, this week we have a fantastic show where we do talk about the future or the cross-generation games that are coming to PS5 and PS4, what that spells, how we feel on it, how Horizon's aimed for this holiday, how God of War is officially delayed, Ben's making a new game. We're going to be talking about Team Asobi joining the PlayStation Studios, all that and more over at the Trophy Room video version, again on YouTube as well. Yeah, last few weeks have been fantastic. So we're just trying now to give back as much as we can. So again, thank you all so much. Thank you, Boom, for being so supportive of it as well. It's been fantastic, man.
That's our absolute pleasure. Mrs. Boomstick and I are huge supporters of this community, and anything we can do to help is something we love and look forward to doing.
Thank you,
let's get to Archimedes. Archimedes, you have been doing some incredible work on your channel. You put out 2 massive videos this week. Tell everyone where they can check out those videos, potentially become a channel member of your YouTube channel, and more importantly, where can people reach out to you on social media?
First of all, thank you so much for having me on the show again. You know, it's always a blast here with the panel. N64 Josh is a fantastic addition to the already amazing panel. Joe, VJ, it's always fun with you guys. So, and thanks also to the chat. The discussions are always fun here. I really enjoy being on this show each and every week. And yeah, and people can find me basically everywhere under Boxenberger. Of course, Twitter, Xbox, PlayStation Network, and of course here on YouTube. Like you said, over the weekend I introduced channel memberships, a big step for me. And yeah, I uploaded 2 videos this week, mainly tech focused this week. A lot to talk about on the Fidelity FX suite, super resolution, and some awesome news on mesh shaders. So if you want to learn a bit more about those technical things regarding Xbox and video games in general, definitely check those out. And otherwise, yeah, I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be a busy week, not just for you, Boom. I'm basically on a podcast every week every day next week. So and I try to do, of course, a couple of things from my channel as well. E3 week is going to be awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Thanks so much for being here, brother. Definitely appreciate that. And yes, it's gonna be a fun week. It's gonna be a tough week, but you know, again, at the end of the day, fun. We're all gonna be looking for the next newest, biggest thing. And I obviously I cannot wait to be a part of that with this incredible community. And last and no way least, VJ, thank you so much for being here, bringing the skills once again. Tell everyone what other shows that you're working on, and more importantly, where can people strike up a conversation on social media?
I'll tell you what, Boom. What I've come to realise being on your show is that there's more chance of Phil Spencer inviting me on over for dinner than there is Mr. Badbit inviting me onto his show to discuss PlayStation.
Maybe one day. Maybe we all have to have goals we set out.
Oh my goodness, I'm almost past my expiry date. But
soon.
No,
yes.
but no, Boom. I really appreciate you allowing me to come onto your show on a weekly basis. It's really appreciated. And if you want to find me, you can find me on Double Barrel Gaming on Thursdays and Stubbs Gaming on a Wednesday for the moment, and on Twitter at Viewpoint Gaming. Thanks again, Boom.
Well, thank you. And real quick, before we get everyone out of here, Master Clowns X3 has become a channel member. Once again, Master Clowns, thank you for the generosity. As always, he's a big supporter. Big shout out to Rain G4 and Fuzzy Belvedere, along with everyone else. I cannot thank you enough for supporting Double Barrel Gaming. This is a passion project of mine that I have made into a reality thanks to your support. And of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's important to me. Hopefully one day it'll be important to you. And that's something that my dear old dad taught us when we were kids. And I think now, more than ever, it's super relevant and, more importantly, important. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you next week on the newest episodes of the Xbox Factor Podcast.